Hello, hello, and welcome to Your Health Matters. Great to be back doing another episode. I have Elizabeth Brusa with me today, co-hosting. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm a little bit travel lagged,
I
but
know.
today every day gets a little better.
Good.
Yeah. So we have so much to get to today. Before we introduce our guest, I want to thank everybody for the positive feedback on the past few shows. We had Dr. Michael Oken on and Dr. Ray Dorsey to talk about their new release of the new book about 3 weeks ago called The Parkinson's Plan. And if you haven't picked it up, you've got to pick it up because it really talks about how they're planning to, within 10 years, by 2035, eradicate Parkinson's disease. So part of my travel lag here is the fact I just got back a couple of days from Mexico. I was in Querétaro, Mexico, and teaching at a physical therapy school, but also attending a Parkinson's conference, which was really interesting because they had a lot of neurologists there and geneticists.
Oh, nice.
And this is spearheaded by a doctor out of Indiana University at Bloomington. So we had all the Americas there, just Western Hemisphere, North America, South America, Central America, Latin America, and from all over, like Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Brazil, Argentina, Nicaragua, El Salvador, a lot of people from Mexico and the USA. And it's really, really interesting to learn how the geneticists are working with the neuroscientists and the neurologists to modify genes to not mutate to help prevent Parkinson's if you have LRRK2 possibility of a LRRK2 gene mutation happening, and a whole bunch of other stuff. This is way over my head. I was just teaching what I teach at that conference, and totally fascinating. It's just it was so great to be there. And of course, our friend Laura was there, and she was presenting. She gave a stellar presentation on how she manages living with Parkinson's, and she's just amazing. So, Laura, if you hear this, hello. It was great to see you again. So, as you all know, at the Neuromotor Training Clinic we have in Camillus, right outside of Syracuse, New York, we are always uh, providing services and therapies with the intention of bringing the absolute best tools to you to help you to live better, feel better, increase, let's say, elongate the health span within your lifespan, to reduce your pain, reduce your fall risk, improve your movement, your cognition, your memory. Well, today we're going to talk with somebody who's, I figure this is a long-term relationship we're in here because this gentleman is a bona fide genius, in my opinion. He's the founder of NeuFit, which is the company that makes the new device we've been raving about now. This is the third or fourth Sunday we've talked about it. It's called the Neubie. And as a matter of fact, we had one for 4 weeks. Well, now we have two because there's a line of people waiting to use it, and it's amazing. So our guest today is Garrett Salpeter. He's an engineer. He's a neuroscientist. He's the founder of NeuFit. He's a creator of the Neubie. And of course, I'll say it again, a bona fide genius. Welcome. I don't want you to feel awkward, Garrett, but thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
Oh, thank you, Karl. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm just as enthusiastic to talk to you. It was so fun getting to meet you through a mutual friend, several months ago, and of course, it took time to arrange a demonstration and all that. But to hear the work that you're doing, we're both tapping into the power of neuroplasticity. We're both helping people, provide neurological input to make positive adaptations to improve function over time, and it really is so synergistic, our approach and our technology with what you're doing there. I was so excited about the combination.
Well, me too. And I have to tell you, when Matt Manelli came up and did the demo in early June, I'm thinking, well, I had no doubt it would be good because the referral came from our mutual friend, co-founder at Rock Tape, and another genius, Dr. Steve Capobianco. You probably heard me talk about him before on the show, listeners. Another mentor for over 10 years now to me. But man, people are like, we're just getting like that one day with Matt. He's there about 3 hours. You know what's cool? He didn't want to leave because we had a blast in here.
Yeah, we did. He was fun.
What was
Nice
cool
boy.
is like Patty, who comes in on Tuesday, her do pinks or trigger finger, boom. She's got almost full range of motion within minutes. I mean, and the other stuff we saw that day, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I had to coordinate a few things so I could make it happen, but now we have it. And, you know, one of the questions I get a whole lot, I'm going to pass it along to you, Garrett, is can you explain in your words, why is it the Neubie is superior, as far as I can tell, to other therapies? Like, nothing against these therapies. I'm not saying that they're bad. There's a time and place for everything, probably, right? But when people come in and they say, "Well, I tried the stem wave, I tried the sound wave, what red light, and I have a TENS unit at home, and you know we got some pain signal blockers maybe going in, and it helps them for a little while." But Newbie is different with this direct current, and I was wondering if you could just describe the difference between Newbie and the others that I just mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. So people often see, electrodes and electric currents going through, and they think, oh, it's a TENS unit, or it's something. I've seen that before. And the biggest difference between this technology and the others in that electrical realm is the difference between alternating current and direct current. And then there's also differences between things like a stem wave or different categories of like shock wave, which are mechanical, whereas this is electrical. So there's some differences there. But I think the best place to start is probably looking at this difference between the direct current and alternating current. And there's really interesting history where some of these benefits, which I promise we'll get to in a moment, some of these benefits of direct current and the reason why it's worth pursuing in the first place were known back in the 1950s, 1960s. The Soviet sports scientists did a lot of work with direct current. However, there was always a big problem, which is when you turn it up to a high enough level to really have a therapeutic effect and make a difference, it would sting and burn the skin of the patient or the athlete.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the Soviets could do a little bit of that experimenting with their athletes, and they could do it for Mother Russia, but we couldn't do that over here in the West. And so direct current was, essentially banished, or it fell out of favor, and filling that void, filling that vacuum came all these alternating current modalities like the TENS units, what we call quote unquote Russian stim, interferential FES, traditional NMES, all these different technologies. They came in simply because they were able to get electrical currents into the body without stinging and burning the skin, because the signal goes back and forth. You don't have this charge build up, don't get as much resistance or impedance to the electrical current flow. And so, okay, now why does that matter? Because we have this big breakthrough where we're able to get direct current into the body using our technology, using the NeuFit device, without stinging and burning the skin. But yes, the question naturally is, why does that matter? And it matters because of the effects that direct current has on the body. And, to really answer your question, I think the biggest difference between this and everything else, the biggest reason why it matters that we use direct current is because of the effect on the nervous system. When you use an alternating current signal, for example, that signal goes back and forth, positive, negative, and you end up creating essentially co-contraction. That signal is confusing to the nervous system, whereas with direct current, we can get a lot more, the signal going only in one direction, get a lot more powerful and precise input into the nervous system. So we can really preferentially stimulate the sensory side of the nervous system to create the same signals as if movement is happening, and really accelerate the process of reprogramming the nervous system. So I think that's the main benefit. There's some others, but we can get to that after the break.
Yeah. I find it fascinating. And some of the stories of Russian athletes, and they're actually pretty bad because they started injecting Novocaine into their joints after a while. I don't know if you knew that, but they're destroying their joints, and but whatever. Anyways, we're going to have an open house here on Wednesday, September 17th, 10 a.m. We'll talk more about that when we get back from the break, but we have 2 newbies. We're going to demo them. You can sign up for a program for a discount that day, and I could just promise that you've never seen anything like it. So we'll be back with Garrett Salpeter right after the break. This is News Radio 570 WSIR. See you in a couple of minutes. And we're back with our special guest, Garrett Salpeter, the founder of NeuFit, which is a company that creates the Neubie device we're talking about today. Again, we're going to have an open house here at Neuromotor Training, 5415 West Genesee Street, Camillus. It's in a Preventive Medicine Associates complex. And you can sign up for that by going to, it's free, by the way. So you can sign up to it for it by going to karlsterling.com. That's Karl with a K. When you get to the landing page, right there, right in front of your, when you look at the screen, there's a place to put your name and your email and sign up, and you can't miss it. So we have a few spots left, but it is filling up quickly because this one's like the word's getting out there. So we're talking about the Neubie and why it is superior, let's say, and also different, and how it is delivering the treatments. And I love the fact that when we started off, you're talking about, and in the course, which I just love the course. The courses you make are so good. Neuroplasticity. I mean, you're really getting it at a root level, nervous system, connecting with the brain because it's all a loop that's connected. Are we retraining our system? Are we retraining our nerves and muscles and how to cooperate together? What's happening?
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting to zoom out and think about how, for most children, absent some sort of cerebral palsy or developmental issues, we have perfect muscle tone, right? Children can all get into a deep squat. They have full range of motion, don't have pain unless it's an acute because they fall and hit something, and then it generally tends to heal fast. So there's this baseline level of function that, again, barring some sort of disease or developmental issue, we all have this baseline, healthy baseline, efficient baseline. And there's times where, because of injuries, because of bad habits developed over time, because of our sedentary lifestyles, because of environmental toxins or other insults that affect the nervous system, whatever it might be, we have aberrations from those healthy baseline patterns. And my goal, our goal at NeuFit, is to really help people get back to whatever their true baseline is, their true potential for efficient foundational movement. And one of the biggest ways that we do that is, first of all, understanding that, our brains are actually oriented towards survival and protection. So our brains don't want us to do more. They don't want us to jump higher or sprint faster or stretch farther, right? They actually want us to do less because they're afraid that if we move too fast, stretch too far, we're going to injure ourselves, right? And so a lot of what our brains do is actually limit movement, limit output by creating tension, by weakening muscle, reducing muscle output, or also by creating a signal of pain. And so what we want to do is actually scan around on the body and find where those neurological patterns are being imposed. And once we find those, we want to re-educate. So we re-educate the nervous system. So we take advantage of some of these properties of direct current that we talked about many minutes ago, where we can scan around on the body and find, based on how the body responds, find where the nervous system has any excessive guarding or inhibition, which means shutting down and weakening the muscles, or there's that hypersensitivity that plays into those pain pathways. And so once we scan around and find those areas, we can stimulate those areas and give the brain and nervous system an opportunity to recalibrate, to re-educate, to it's sort of a form of exposure therapy, to see these neurological inputs that are literally the same ones that would happen if they were trying out different movements. And by seeing those, they can then relearn which ones are safe, which ranges of motion or which muscle activation patterns or which coordination patterns are safe. And the brain can then sort of take the brake off or ease off on that governor and no longer have to impose those protective patterns. Of course, we still want, there's these protective mechanisms we have in the nervous system. We don't want to just override those and get injured, but we do want to give each individual a chance to recalibrate, because oftentimes, after any, whether it's a minor or a major injury, or certainly even a surgery, it's even more amplified, but that neurological response to the insult, to the trauma, is often why it takes so long to heal, why people get locked in a cycle of chronic pain, why they never quite get back to the level of function they had before. And that's what we want to do, is find where those aberrant patterns are to help the individual get back to that baseline.
Yeah, that's really, you talked a few minutes ago about re-education, which I have circled here now. And, it's funny because my first trip to Mexico, it's about almost 8 years ago. I just got back from my 21st trip. I love going there. But, Dr. Eduardo Guadarrama, I'm supposed to say roll the R. And I'm not good at that yet. After 21 trips, I'm still not good. Anyways, Eduardo is a physical therapist there. He talked about re-educating movement. So that was the first time I ever heard about re-educating nervous system, brain, body to move better. Otherwise, it seems like a lot, not to diss any PTs, but standard PT a lot of times is single joint movements, maybe some simple multi-joint movements. Definitely not a re-education. So what I find really interesting about the Neubie is the mapping aspect, because now we're able to go in and find some things that maybe to some people might seem like, okay, I'm scanning over this part of the body and it's causing this on that part of the body. Is like that connection doesn't seem logical a lot of times, yet it is. Maybe we're getting closer or going back to the source of pain, discomfort, or dysfunction in a way that I haven't been able to ever do before. Like mapping is a key element of this to really get to the source. So I love that. And the fact that we can go in that way now and get right to the root, and with proper placement of pads, which we can talk about in a minute, proper, therapy protocol, it is a re-education process. So in this re-education, then, what you're saying is the brain and nervous systems, they're learning over again what to do, what to perceive as pain, also possibly, or realize that it's not pain. I mean, because pain is an output, which is counterintuitive to a lot of us. We think it's an input, right?
Yeah. So pain is interesting. If I may, I'd actually like to just comment on something you said a moment ago about this concept of re-education, because it's really interesting. I think that conceptually, most physical therapists or rehab professionals would agree in the importance of neuromuscular re-education, re-educating or rebuilding, retraining, good, efficient, high quality movement patterns. I think the issue is in how to apply that, or how to operationalize that concept, because they're typically going to be doing corrective exercises where it can work. You just have to do thousands and thousands and thousands of repetitions, because if you're fighting against one of these underlying neurological influences that we talked about, where the nervous system is guarding in a certain area because of an injury or trauma, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. So you're going to have to be doing thousands and thousands of these repetitions trying to fight that pattern. Whereas when we do a process like mapping, you can, as you said, Karl, go right to the source. You can find exactly where that pattern is being imposed, reset it, so that in dozens of repetitions, you may be able to accomplish the same as if you were doing thousands of repetitions in the older paradigm. So I think I think there's actually, I'm grateful, I'm kind of relieved to say that I think there is more conceptual alignment. It's just a question of not having the tools, techniques, or strategies to be able to actually implement that, to find where to apply the neuromuscular education to get the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, well said. I think, I was corrective exercise all the way 12 years ago. It's like that was the only thing that we should be doing. But, well, I stand corrected. No pun intended. And nothing wrong with it. But like you say, it takes longer, man. And this is so exciting. We have to go to break already. As I say, radio minutes are the fastest minutes of my life. How about you?
They go by fast.
We're coming back after the break to talk more with Garrett Salpeter. This is News Radio 570 WSYR. See you in a couple minutes. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. So, one of the things that I like, well, let's talk about the open house. I want to make sure this is right after the bottom of the hour news break we're in right now. And I want everybody to know that on Wednesday, September 17th, 10 a.m., we're going to be here for a free demonstration. You can try it out. The one of the two Neubie devices we have. We're realizing results that we've never seen before so quickly. Now, with respect, I say it doesn't mean that we're going to cure anything, we're going to permanently fix anything, that it's the end all be all, you'll be better for the rest of your life. I mean, it took us a while for some of us, or years or decades, to get into the position or condition we're in, whether it's, chronic pain or movement dysfunction or movement compensation patterns that cause joint wearing down. And, but the bottom line is, if you're really looking to make some serious changes at the root level, you will want to sign up for this. And this includes, so go to karlsterling.com, Karl with a K. Get signed up. Hold your spot, because it's like most of the things we do here, and especially this one, it's filling up fast. So we have been using this for pain reduction, increasing range of motion. We've been using it for post-stroke, post-brain surgery rehabilitation, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, drop foot. That's one I want to talk about. Dupinck's contractions, things like that. And but you have a question.
Which one? The pacemakers?
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Let's ask right now and get that out of the way. Because if you have a pacemaker,
Defibrillator.
yeah,
You use this device, Garrett? If you have a pacemaker and a defibrillator, is it okay to use it?
So that is a contraindication, and the default answer is going to be no, unless until we get guidance from the individual's physician that it would be okay. And so sometimes they'll say, it's okay within certain guidelines.
Okay.
It's that one is a no by default unless we get the instructions otherwise from the appropriate physician.
Okay.
and if you're pregnant, no, right?
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, we don't know how the electric fields would interact with a developing embryo or fetus. So, certainly wouldn't want to apply it across the abdomen. But again, same thing. It's a contraindication. Default answer is no, unless you get instructions otherwise, which, can be done sometimes, but it would depend on the physician's judgment.
Okay. So my next question.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I'm thinking of a couple of people, but especially Dan,
Yes.
what we're doing there.
Yeah.
What have you noticed there?
I noticed that when we give it to one individual who's had strokes and
3 strokes.
3 strokes,
Most recent one in April.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, that when he has it, after he has it, and we have him do sit to stands, or actually when he moves better. He actually moves better. So it is better to move immediately after having a Neubie treatment? I mean, is it important to keep moving after you have you're stimulated by the machine and we take you off, is what I'm saying.
There's a few really cool topics here to directly answer your question, Elizabeth. Yes, it is. There is value in continuing to move after the treatment. And the idea is that you've just had this sort of, it's like the ultimate warm up, in the sense that, for you listening to this, if you had the experience where you warm up, you feel loose, you feel like you're moving a little more fluid and faster and greater precision of movement, better control, you can go out and play recreational sports or elite sports or do an activity better. And same thing there with this individual who had the stroke. His nervous system is primed. The right pathways are what's called facilitated, or basically activated, so that when he moves, he is moving better. And so the more repetitions he can do within reason while he's in that state, the more likely it is to stick. So if he can get more quality repetitions, that's more chances for his brain to see that new method of movement, that new strategy, and start to adapt in that direction. Because we're always neurological adaptation, specific adaptation to impose demand, the SAID principle says that we're always getting better at exactly what it is we're doing. And so it's not practice makes perfect, it's practice makes permanent or more permanent.
Oh, I like that.
And so,
Yeah.
A lot of people like to still be sedative. Like they still want to, like we gave one woman, I'm thinking of treatment, and she just when she was finished and we took her off the device, she automatically wanted to sit. I'm like, please move. So like, keep moving. So she did. She walked around the clinic for a while and then she sat, and I was like, okay, but I hope her pain didn't come back. We haven't seen her, and she'll be back this week, I think.
She's coming Friday. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
so there's one other part to this conversation is that we often do. I think Karl mentioned this. I don't know if we were on or off the air, but mentioned that we definitely want to be exercising while the current is being applied. And this goes back to the conversation we had about corrective exercise traditionally and how it can be wonderful and also very slow versus corrective exercise with the NeuFit device applied and how that can really accelerate the process. So I think the most valuable is to do the exercises while the device is applied, because this gentleman could be doing he could be doing dozens and dozens of sit to stand, and in each one he's compensating around not fully activating whatever the muscle might be. Maybe it's a glute or glute medius on one side or some core musculature to stabilize so that you can be more erect and upright, whatever it might be. But if you have the machine on there creating that signal, each of those repetitions is going to be such greater quality, have a lot more input and activation. So it's going to accelerate the motor learning that happens, accelerate that learning of the new skill, the movement skill, reprogramming the software of the nervous system. It's going to happen a lot faster. So I think, yes, because, moving after, once you have these benefits, moving after is awesome. I want to make sure we don't skip over, the movement during. And so, like Elizabeth, that case where, if you had told me that woman is just, wanting to be sedentary, I'd say, yeah, maybe it's good to, nudge her, inspire her to move around a little bit more. But if you had told me, yeah, she just did a lot of movement during her session and needed to sit down and rest, that's okay, because after an intensive exercise and learning, that sort of depends on the context, right?
Right.
Well, it's interesting. For example, when our friend Dan comes in, who had his third stroke a while back, left side is mostly affected. Well, we had him doing sit to stands yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them. In fact, he just kept going and going, and I was trying to get him to stop, and he kept going. So, but he was, first of all, popping right up out of the chair, almost as if it was effortless or almost normal. We might have him do something like leg extensions on the, leg extension. He can easily crank out another 50% on top of the weight he was doing on just left leg alone, because Neubie is assisting him with this. And it's a beautiful way to develop strength, muscle, coordination. It gets stronger, move better. We actually have to go to break in 90 seconds. So,
well, his wife also said that it was almost like having his old self back after he left here.
She did say that yesterday. I see a glimpse of your old self, my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had moments here where there are some tear shedding. And we actually love it when that happens, because we want people to have major
hope.
Yeah, in my second book, I wrote, the first chapter is, I can't remember the order of the words. I think it's hope, belief, and empowerment, because when you regain even what most people might think of as the most basic skill, like rolling over in bed, for example, there are people who can't do it. And then there's countless stories I have. One in particular, though, in Mexico, my first trip, where this lady rolled over for the first time on her own in 5 years. She went from feeling self-defeated, hopeless, to still, to this day, she ran a marathon a couple of months ago, has Parkinson's. Just unstoppable. So we have to go to break. We'll continue talking about this right after the break. This is News Radio 570 WSYR, Your Health Matters. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My name is Karl Sterling. I have Elizabeth Brusa with me today, and our special guest is the founder of NeuFit, which is also the company that creates the amazing Neubie devices we have, Garrett Salpeter. And we've been talking with Garrett about what makes Neubie different than so many other treatments, like shockwave, sound wave, stem wave, red light. Nothing against those, just saying that if you really want some results, you got to check this thing out. And we have 2 of them. And we have an open house coming up. Go to karlsterling.com, Karl with a K, September 17th here at Neuromotor Training in Camillus, 10 a.m. We're going to give free demos. We'll talk about it for a while. Then you're going to get on one if you want to. We can work through things like pain and I know all kinds of things. Okay, helping you to move better. Garrett, in the last quarter of the hour, I really like to try to connect dots. Could you help us connect some dots and how maybe so that the listeners can relate in a complete way of what's our ultimate goal? What was your ultimate goal when you created this device?
Initially the inspiration was to, I had been an athlete and I had very disappointing experiences with traditional physical therapy, traditional orthopedic medicine. And then when I finally learned about the importance of the nervous system and experienced the power of, direct current, more to microcurrent, earlier primitive version, it changed my whole belief in what's possible in this field. And so really I set out initially to help people like me recover, to give athletes like me the tools and techniques and strategies that I wished I had years prior. And then it's, of course, because it was such a neurological angle to it, we've now been working with, MS and stroke and neuropathy patients and spinal cord injury patients and all these other things, which is this whole wonderful area that, I've just sort of organically gotten interested in from wanting to help people and all that. And then in terms of the overall approach and connecting dots here, we talked towards the beginning about this notion of wanting to help people get back to their, quote unquote, normal, healthy baseline, which is very efficient, robust, vital neurological function, great communication. And we deviate from that because of injury, because of, a stroke, like you were talking about with this gentleman who's your patient there, sedentary lifestyles, other insults, whatever it might be. And so I loved hearing you say that particular quote where he said that this gentleman's wife said, you're, something like, oh my gosh, I see the old you, you're back to the way you used to be, because that literally, that is our ultimate goal, is to help get back to, it's this starting with this belief that we all have this healthy baseline level of robust function, and we're trying to help people get back there. And so to hear those exact words was just such a wonderful moment there. And I think that ultimately is the best way to connect the dots, because that is you achieving the goal of treatment. So well done, Karl, Elizabeth, Nikki, and team.
Well, because of you, this device exists, and the courses you teach are really, really top notch. I kept raving to you, remember?
Yes.
I'm texting her at night. This is the best course I've ever taken. And I keep saying that. I was telling Nikki the same thing. So now she's got with the second Neubie, that's like her account,
Right.
and they're taking that
Right.
course. She says, oh man, this stuff is great. But it is. It is. And so we've had really good luck with neuropathy, drop foot, chronic pain, acute pain, range of motion. I mean, sometimes it's like so funny because we'll have, somebody maybe a quad set of patches on one shoulder and they could barely, this is on YouTube too, folks. If you go to karlsterling.net, you could watch, but I mean, they do like this in the beginning, you can barely move, and then they're like that. So I love that after a few, actually one of my statements is, I hope I don't see you too often or for too many times, because the goal is not to keep you here forever. It's let's set you free. Let's make this stuff get better so you can just move on. I mean, I'm not here to take your money twice a week for the next 20 years. let's give you a half dozen or 10 or 20, whatever it is, and everyone's going to vary. But let's get you moving better, feeling better. We're always here and we're available if you need a tune-up. So I also want to say, folks, that after we end this quarter, when we're off air, you can hear more because we're going to talk more with Garrett on overtime. And the one place you can watch this, listen to it, is at karlsterling.net, Karl with a K. Just look for the Neubie video, the interview with Garrett Salpeter, and you can learn more. So, Garrett, it seems like the Neubie also creates less discomfort or muscle fatigue than other forms of e-stim. Why is that?
That has to do a lot with the differences that we had talked about a while ago between alternating current and direct current, because with alternating current, as that signal alternates back and forth, it causes these protective muscle contractions. And, I had talked about how alternating current sort of came in because of these issues with direct current and burning the skin. And so alternating current has been really the standard of care in electrical, in the electrical realm for decades. And we've come to, insurance is reimbursing less and less for it or not at all, because we're coming to see just how limited it is. And a big part of the limitation is because of what you're describing here, where as that signal alternates back and forth, positive, negative, it causes muscles to what's called co-contract or fight against each other. It's like if you were driving your car and hitting the throttle and the brake pedal at the same time, right? You're resisting movement. There's a lot of internal friction and mechanical wear and tear on the car, and you can be wearing things down faster, all that sort of thing. And so we're able to bypass a lot of that with this direct current signal to get more sensory input into the nervous system. And a lot of why you have fatigue, as Karl mentioned, a lot of why you have fatigue with these traditional devices is because of the effect of that alternating current, that signal going back and forth and back and forth. With this direct current, we're getting a lot more of that sensory input and re-educating or retraining, as we've talked about, the nervous system to move more efficiently. So when we move efficiently, your muscles get back to a healthier resting length, and they have opportunities to essentially recover as you move. You can get this micro regeneration with blood flow, micro regeneration of energy supply within muscles, and you can actually, you're so much more energetically efficient that you can continue to move better for longer. So this is really, again, it's because of that retraining or that re-education effect on the nervous system ultimately. And I'm so glad you called that out. That is a big deal.
Well, a couple of thoughts on my mind. We have just under 2 minutes before we have to sign off, but we are going to overtime, folks. So if you want to hear the rest of what we talk about, go to karlsterling.net. That's Karl with a K. I think that the autonomic nervous system reset has been a real game changer. I think that just for anybody, I know it's been really good for me. I've only done it, I think, 3 times now.
And you did it 3 times. I've only done it twice.
Okay, and both times you felt really good.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah, there's just something about that that's really special. You get off there and you felt kind of light.
Lightheaded, not lightheaded, light in body. Like I could move freely. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It woke me up. I think it even woke up my brain, to tell you the truth. I was dragging, and I did this for 20 minutes and got up, and I felt like a different person.
Awesome.
Well, before we sign off, I want to say thank you to everybody for listening. Remember, go to overtime, which is karlsterling.net. Look for the Neubie interview with Garrett Salpeter. Garrett, thanks a million for joining us. I'm going to be formal as we sign off the year, but thanks a million. So much appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you, Karl. Thank you, Elizabeth. And it's an honor to be on the show. And I'm just, so excited for the opportunity here to combine forces and be able to work together to reach a lot more people.
You got it, my friend. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you to our producer, Hunter Hillers, the radio station, everybody there. My name's Karl Sterling. This is Your Health Matters on News Radio 570 WSYR. Remember, sign up at karlsterling.com. Hope to see you on Wednesday. We're back for overtime with Neubie, creator, founder of NeuFit, Garrett Salpeter. And we're talking about the Neubie. We have two. We're so excited. And I'm there in the Neubie cubbies every day, all day. That's like
You and Nikki.
my new home. Yeah, Nikki and me. Well, this autonomic nervous system reset has been really interesting. We're finding, well, for example, when I was doing it, the 2 or 3 times I did, I think it's 3, it's self-administered in my case, so I'm reaching over trying to see where am I at with the power output so I could write it down and remember where I was that day. But anyways, I find it really interesting what I'm feeling in my body, head to toe, like from, the occipital all down to the bottom of the feet, and how one side seems to respond and move, let's say, more involuntary than the other side of my body. And I don't know what's going on, but I find it interesting also that when I get done, I feel like, for the most part, if I had any anxiety, which I tend to have very high a lot of times all day, it's reduced significantly. And you felt light in weight, and you said your mood changed.
Yeah. And I also slept better that night, which I had.
Yeah, and my head turned a lot better too, so that was good.
Yeah.
Let's I'm going to use your words, Garrett. Let's peel things back. What's going on with this autonomic nervous system reset?
There's a few parts to it. I think first it's worth taking a moment to understand really why we're working with the nervous system in the first place. And at the risk of being repetitive, I do want to take a moment to look at this from a slightly different angle. You talked several minutes ago, Karl, about how you've seen people, immediately, either in one session or in a small number of sessions, see improvements in acute pain and chronic pain, in range of motion, in their ability to lift a drop foot, right? And all these different, ability to lift a shoulder in one session from down at their side all the way up overhead. You showed some of these examples. So why is that? Well, I think the answer is obvious. If there was a fracture or something was really broken and the shoulder couldn't move, you wouldn't be able to do that. So it's clear that the hardware, right, the bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments, etc., are connected. The issue was the software, was the inability of the nervous system to create the signal to use the muscles, to signal the muscles to lift the arm up overhead. And you were able to re-educate that person's nervous system, because the nervous system controls muscular movement, pain, the way that we think and feel and emotions and all these different things. It also, specifically the autonomic nervous system, also controls things like heart rate, blood pressure, blood flow, digestive function, reproductive function, all these other things. So the autonomic nervous system becomes really important as well. And that has to do with, like Elizabeth saying, she slept better that night. That's one of the, and you talking about, Karl, you talking about, how you commonly feeling some level of anxiety and that improving. That all is the nervous system. And the master reset is essentially a way to stimulate the nervous system in a way that's sort of like a mix of meditation and going for a walk in nature, where you're getting stimulation and activity, but not with any sort of fatigue or that you would get if you were working at a higher level. So there's 2 different types of benefit that you're getting there. You have the pads. Typically it's, pads are on the base of the skull, back of the neck, and then down on the feet. So you're getting that neurological signal, that direct current electric field flowing through the entire body. So there's probably some effect locally on the neck, because that's literally where the vagus nerve leaves the brainstem. And that is the single biggest avenue by which the parasympathetic nervous system interacts, the rest and digest, relax, recover side of the nervous system interacts with the body. And then there's also the feet. The feet are one of the primary ways we interact with the world. If you may or may not believe in the power of foot reflexology and all these different things, but there's a lot of there are a lot of known reflexes between the rest of the body. So you're getting local stimulation and at the neck and in the feet, these very neurologically rich areas. And then you're also getting these direct current electric fields in between. I have some theories that might be a little bit out there on, hypotheses around what's happening, but generally speaking, what we do know, at least before going too far off on towards the end of the branch, what we do know is that you're getting just general low level stimulation of the entire nervous system throughout the entire body, through the spine and core musculature and the legs as the signal goes through there. And so you're getting this low level stimulation and input. And we do see that increased heart rate variability, which if you listening to this don't know what that is, it's basically a marker of where your autonomic nervous system is between that fight or flight and the rest and digest, where you are. The higher, generally speaking, some small exceptions, but generally speaking, the higher the heart rate variability is, the more on that towards the rest and digest side you are. So the more better you're able to recover from stress, from exercise, or more chronic stress and psychological anxiety. And we see that. So we see that big boost in the autonomic nervous system.
Can I make a comment?
Of course.
I use the Whoop. I like Whoop.
Yeah, I got mine on too. Yeah.
Oh, great. I mean, Aura is great. I just don't like wearing rings and stuff. But my HRV has been boosted up significantly, and I just realized maybe it has a little bit to do with the reset. Like it's now, I don't know what is considered good. It's 60. I'm 64, so it's 64. I don't know. Biologically, Whoop says I'm 56, and then this other thing says I'm 30 something metabolically. Whatever. I'm 64, and mine's been around 43, 44 HRV, and it's always been in the 30s. I'm in the 40s the past 3 weeks. Huh.
That's good. I mean,
I like it. I know it's better to have a higher number, and I feel really freaking good physically. Yeah.
That's good. I can tell you that we've done some more rigorous experiments. That's sort of a loose N=1 experiment, and that's valuable because ultimately what happens to a population average can be different from what happens to you, Karl, to you, Elizabeth, to you listening. So that is valuable, and that's part of the reason I love having the Whoop. I can treat my life as an ongoing experiment, and it
is. Yeah.
We've also seen in more kind of randomized, controlled trials, same thing with doing the master reset, seeing heart rate variability increase, and that is a very reliable measurement of where you are in this autonomic state. So you tend to be on the side of healthier blood pressure, healthier blood flow, healthier digestion and elimination and reproductive function, and healthier responses to stress, and being less likely to, have a short fuse and lose one's temper, and be more resilient, and all these different things, right? So,
except for yesterday. No, we never argue.
No, no, we don't.
We might disagree on very, very, very seldom, but we discuss things. But yesterday I went off. I had a relatively polite rant, not at her, but in front of her. Thank you for trusting me and listening to all my frustrations. I never do that either. It's like twice a year, Well, okay, so let's go back to this now. So HRV, blood pressure, anxiety coming down. I think I just had really bad travel lag too. I don't travel well, even though it was a good trip. I worked for Dr. Emily Splickle for 7 years. I don't know if you know Dr. Emily, founder of Neubie Technology, podiatrist.
Oh yeah, I don't know her, but I've seen their products. I know there's a lot of work to stimulate the bottoms of the feet, right? Because they missed out on so much stimulation. We wear thick soled shoes and all that. So I'm a big believer in the philosophy.
Oh yeah, and we use those insoles here. I have got half a drawer full of them pretty much at all times, because in my 7 years of teaching for her, really, really learned the value of barefoot stimulation, and then reflexology points and triggers, and things all the way from gosh, I didn't do this. I should have walked outside barefoot, try to get over this travel lag, because this grounding in general is really good for us with barefoot stimulation on not so much pavement or concrete. I mean, it's not going to be bad, but grass, dirt, connect with the earth, with your skin, not socks on, skin, barefoot. And there is so much power in that, which Now when I look at the foot baths, which we're doing a lot of foot baths,
Yeah.
we're doing leg baths. As a matter of fact, we have 2 people who come in, one in particular with their skin, their blood flow below the knees pretty bad. But when they give them it's the trash can bath. We put them there in a trash place, each one leg in one on the other, drop the grounds in, and their skin is starting to change. The color of their skin is changing, and blood flow is improving. So I find this to be totally fascinating that these hand and foot baths can do so much good. And I'm so happy because it's another tool in the toolbox.
Right.
We have barefoot, the insoles, textured insoles to wear, take barefoot to benefit in your shoes with you out the door. We got several power plates here, but the bath offers extra.
Yeah. There, if I may actually, elaborate on that for a moment. One of the, we talked a while ago now about the difference between alternating current and direct current. So we did a study on, it was 150 patients, average age of 74, patients with diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Is very common, as you know, Karl.
Yeah.
Extremely common. For you listening to this, you may not realize that 1 in 10 people have neuropathy in this. So in this country alone, it's 30 something million people.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and the standard of care is basically just try to manage pain, manage symptoms. No one really believes, speaking generally for the medical field, that you can actually make meaningful improvements in function. And so this study was really interesting because it was the first to compare in humans alternating current versus direct current. So with the traditional alternating current, the TENS unit, patients there did see some improvements in pain, which is what people expect with the standard of care. So there's some benefit. However, it pales in comparison to what they saw with the direct current of the Neubie device, where with that, not only were there as much or greater reductions in pain, but there were increases in sensation, improvements in function, activities of daily living, and we actually did the electrical measurements, looking at EMG, looking at nerve conduction velocity, actually saw healing and regenerative effects in the nerves in the legs. And why is that? Well, we believe that's happening because of the effects, which one of the other main benefits of direct current that we didn't really talk about, but the effects of these direct current electric fields, how when you apply direct currents to the body, it causes, cells and different tissues in the body or different molecules have electrical charges that different ions have electrical charges that can be moved and called to certain areas. And there's a process called cell migration that can happen under the influence of direct current electric field. So it can actually influence the healing process. And as we talked about the effect on the autonomic nervous system, it can help, dilate blood vessels to increase blood flow in the areas. So we actually saw down in and they were doing a foot bath, which is, why I wanted to bring it up, because Karl, you were mentioning the foot bath, but these neuropathy patients were seeing in just 6 weeks, twice a week, seeing measurable, significant, statistically significant, and very impactful in their lives improvements, twice a week, doing it twice a week for 6 weeks. So it was really, really powerful and really exciting. And I think it speaks to, the value of that foot bath that you're describing, and really another avenue by which these direct current electric fields was the healing process in the body, and sort of why this really matters.
Interesting. Your sister-in-law,
My sister-in-law.
bone spur, Achilles, bottom of the Achilles. Do you have any recommendations of Neubie treatment protocol for, let's say, helping a bone spur not hurt so much?
So there's a couple thoughts here. I mean, one is, just big picture. We've talked about how what we're really addressing is the software, right, of nervous system function, and not so much the hardware, not so much directly. We can influence the healing process, which is good. So there is some ability to influence there, but we're not directly influencing structure of the body. So there are cases where if someone has stenosis or a bone spur, there's cases where they're going to have to do something else to break that down, or sometimes, I'm not saying this is a surgical case, but sometimes that would be a surgical case to go in and actually shave it down. So long as you understand the root cause and you work to address it, you can have a long term. And of course, there's always risks with surgery and it should be a last resort. So the way I would approach this here, sorry for that long-winded
No, I appreciate it.
segue into trying to actually answer the question, but the way I would address it is I would go through probably both mapping that we've talked about and a foot bath here and see how much working with the software and the nervous system and improving function, see how much that can help your sister-in-law. And there's a good chance that it'll help, moderately or significantly if it is truly a structural issue and you just can't make any progress, or you make a little bit and it regresses back to where it was before, then it might be more of a structural thing and maybe you need another type of intervention. But I would try the same approaches that we've talked about, so especially mapping and the foot bath. And there's a good chance that you're going to make at least some progress, because there's so many times where, people see something structural on an MRI or have something like this that you described with the bone spur. And yet taking this functional approach, helps them so much that they were candidates to get surgery and now they wouldn't dream of having it. But
Yeah.
we don't want to overpromise either, because, we're not, with these electrodes, we're not able to go in and melt down a bone spur and we're very quickly change. Bones deposit calcium over time. They can pick it back up and, over time. And so, there is, if she's moving well over time, potentially can change back, but that's a different time course than a couple sessions. You're talking about or to develop or to reabsorb, that can be months, and that's of quality movement. So there's a few different parts to that.
Interesting. Well, do you have any other questions?
No.
I mean, I could go on for hours, but also want to be mindful of your time, Garrett. No, this has been really, really great to talk with you and get into some of the details about how it was intended to work, how it actually works, and the whole idea of re-education. And I really like the idea of software versus hardware, because a lot of times I'm just saying, we're going after the hardware, the doctors. Could be a surgical procedure. There's so much surgery that is suggested or happens that maybe should be a last resort, but it's not a last resort, and they're going right for it. And then who knows what happens. We have actually a lady who they wanted to fuse her right ankle.
Yes.
They ain't going to be doing that because she said, no, I just can't believe it. Garrett, thanks a million, man.
Karl, Elizabeth, thank you both for having me on the show and for the work that you're doing. I mean, you had this beautiful, framework and system where you're already working with the nervous system and harnessing the power of neuroplasticity. So, the fact that you have that makes it just so much easier and valuable to capture the immediate synergies from plugging in something like the NeuFit method. So I just love working with you, and I'm excited to see this collaboration continue.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
We will. Wouldn't surprise me if we fill up all 4 cubbies with Neubie at some point.
We'd have to have a new building.
Yeah, we have to get a new building. We're out of space. We have no more space. We fit right how we are. We just fit in here, but otherwise, we got to move. So, well, thanks again. And I appreciate your time and everything you're doing. And you and I we'll all be keeping in touch. Maybe we can, find a collaborative effort somewhere. Plus, we have training centers. They will be opening. The first initial is going to be group stuff at various places that are already bricks and mortar with staff that we can go train and do group for what we do. But the one-on-ones are going to kick in after that. It all just as a process and, funding and procedure and how the advisors really want to go about it. But Neubie's going to be something we'll be probably buying a lot of over the years, no doubt. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Likewise, thank you. And I'm excited to see the growth of neuromotor training, and
Thank you.
really appreciate this conversation today.
Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Always great to have you here with me.
It was fun to be with you.
And of course, without listeners, we wouldn't have a show to do. So thank you for listening. And my name is Karl Sterling. This is Your Health Matters. I'm with Elizabeth Brusa. This is News Radio 570 WSYR. We're on every Sunday, noon to 1 p.m. And thanks for listening. And be sure to go to karlsterling.com, Karl with a K, and just see the services we have. Right top left is Neubie. That's like my favorite tab to click on because we're getting such great results with it. So thanks for listening and have a great week, everybody.